Hi guys, I'm here to record a video to share with you some of the updates on my decluttering process. And why I think it could be interesting for others is because I think we really need to think about the space that we inhabit daily in our day-to-day lives, about things that surround us. And it could appear like this superfluous topic, but it's also a very nice topic to think about, particularly when, your other life is not, the content of this life is much more traumatic than some other things. So you can take it as a way to escape, I'm guessing, but it's also a good psychological mechanism, I think, to be focusing on some things that surround us rather than on some big ideas sometimes. So I wanted to share with you, as you know, I've been moving from one place to another. I recently counted that I moved about maybe 8 or 10 times in just 10 years or something. Maybe not in 10 years, but in 12 years for sure. And I also changed the states. So that's partially why I'm thinking a lot about things that I part with and the things that I keep, because I moved at a minimum from Russia to the United States. And then in the United States, I moved in Austin every now and then from Austin to New York. So it's a lot of movement. And of course, oh yeah, and before I moved to the United States, I actually moved to Great Britain from Russia. So I lived in several countries and in 2 states at least. So it's a lot of movement. And, I've been always kind of on the side of somebody who preserves things, like somebody who appreciates museums and archives and things that you accumulate that preserve the memories. I argued in one of my videos that it's important for the writer to keep an archive, and I absolutely think so. However, when it comes to the material possessions, the circumstances of my life were such that I had to move a lot and I couldn't preserve them. And it brought me to the point where I'm like thinking about things, what things constitute for us, how we relate to things, what things tell us about us. Because generally speaking, what we surround ourselves with, it depends on what we think of ourselves. And if we think that we are this or that, we will have things that surround us that would agree to that. For example, you will keep a small library or maybe a bigger library related to what you perceive to be your specialty, which is a big part of identification of anybody. You will try to preserve things that relate to your past, that will remind you who you are. But at some point, as we develop, our identities also change. We flow from one state to another, by which I mean the state of mind rather than the state in the United States. And so these things that we still keep, that we still have, they end up being the sort of shells of our former selves. And it's difficult to get rid of them, but at the same time, I don't think it's necessary to keep them. It's like a snake that changed the skin every season, but still wanted to keep all the skins that she previously had somehow accessible, thinking that maybe she will return to some of those skins and re-inhabit them, which will never happen. So as I keep moving, I am embracing more and more radical approach to what can be kept and what should be thrown away. And right now I'm at this point in my life where I found myself being able to get rid of some of the books that were speaking to me because I associated my identity with them. I'm talking about some collections of articles of anthropological books, mainly about the region of former Soviet Union, broadly speaking, and more precisely Russia. And, there is this whole arc of post-socialist and post-Soviet space, how the space was post-socialist and post-Soviet. So I'm departing from this understanding of this space, and with that, I'm parting with some of the books that would uphold this idea. And there is nothing wrong with that. Like, I want to preserve the archive, but at the same time, I don't want to be piled by it. I don't want to be conditioned by it too. Like, it was a certain stage where we've been, and now we moved on. We clearly understand that whatever we're dealing with, our previous frameworks were not sufficient to deal with that. And that brings me to the new aspect of decluttering and discarding, and that aspect is that we benefit from freeing the space from the things that do not benefit us anymore. And the objects that we keep, they begin to play out differently when they have enough space. Just to give you one example, I didn't get rid of the sand clock that I had, and my son and I, we were sitting with it, and we finally kind of had the space to measure how long it takes for the clock to run out, and kind of experimenting with it a little bit. So this idea that you need to keep all things in order to use them and continue using them, it might not necessarily be the right idea, because if you don't have the space and time to engage with one particular object because it's surrounded by others, you cannot really engage with the potential of that object that you have. So I got some comments on my reflection about discarding, and one comment appeared to be interesting to me. And there was somebody from Russia who was writing in Russian. I'm just kind of giving you the gist of it. That getting rid of things is something that is imposed. Like, this is this new vogue that is telling us what to do. And just as previously, some things were like, we need to keep these objects that we accumulate. The new idea is we now have to get rid of everything that is somehow feels surplus and feels like it's not necessary. So my approach to discarding is less radical. I don't think we need to get rid of things. I just think that we need to create a space and populate it with the things that we really love and like, and that tell us something about our current identity rather than our past identities. These things should suggest to us the paths for our future as opposed to drag us into the past. And on this quest of parting with the past, I am pretty radical myself. For instance, I have no trouble whatsoever getting rid of the photographs from the past that I know I will not be able to replace somehow. But I know they also don't bring me joy. So when I see, for instance, these photographs, I understand that this is not inspiring to me, that this is not something from my future. This is something from my past. This is something that doesn't give me good memories. So the thing is, if it doesn't give me good memories right now, chances are no that this will give me good memories when I will be 80, to the point where I'll be like, okay, let's write a memoir. Let's include everything that has ever happened to me in this memoir. And let's do it with the help of these photographs. Like, this is not going to happen. You're not going to derive joy from the photographs that are not joyful to you right now. And you lose nothing if you're getting rid of these things. So this is just a small update that I wanted to share with you on how my discarding going, because even though I moved recently, I discarded a lot of stuff. I still find what to discard almost every like single, if not day, then a week, because that's a process and it takes time. It can be very tedious if you decide to discard everything at once, and then you're stuck with memories, you're stuck with thoughts about who you are, what are you doing here, where are you going, and that does become very tedious. So it's easy to give up and just say, okay, no, it's fine, I'm just going to live the way I live. There is nothing wrong with that, and there is nothing wrong with that, but you can give yourself a chance to kind of radically part with your possessions and acquire some additional space for yourself. Mm. So if you want to go through some of these possessions of yours that you cannot decide whether you want to keep or throw away, you can book a session with me. Now, I'm not going to tell you to discard things. I'm just going to try and walk with you through the emotions that these things trigger in you, and find out how that relates maybe to your sense of self. Because again, if you are surrounded by things that tell you something about your past self, you are not going to have a lot of space for the things that may propel you further into this futurity that you might be imagining for yourselves. And it seems like it's so mechanical, and it's so like, this is not operating with any big words, right? And with any big notions, with any big understandings of who you are and what you are doing. This is like this boring focusing on day-to-day objects that we basically don't even notice, that are on the border of our perception. But I think this is in a sense what I think a philosophical work is, to study your intentionality, like the ability of your mind to focus on something, and to have these things, like to have these thoughts that are generated in you by the material world. Because I think that in the end of the day, we are material creatures, we are existing in the words of phenomena, as opposed to nominal world. And whatever we have in our mind, it's actually what it is at the moment. So the material world is really, really important, and it's important in a more immediate way than you could possibly think, sometimes. Because I understand this wish and this desire of ours to skip over this particular stage of engaging with your immediate surroundings, and to be in the world where you think about some other things, like from the geopolitical to um, the things about your wishes and desires. But I think that more of that depends on the material world that surrounds you than we usually think it does. So that's my thought about it. Of course, it's possible probably to sit somewhere among things that do not tell you anything anymore and still focus on something that is important. But I don't actually think it's easy. And I think there is a reason why the monks of almost every tradition preferred very clean and empty spaces. Like if you're sitting somewhere in a cave, essentially, or in the chamber that is like empty with the only book that matters for you, for instance, right? Whether it's the Bible or something else, you'll have a completely different set of mind than if you are endlessly surrounded by the noise of the world. Now, I'm not arguing for asceticism and for stoicism in this particular form when you're sitting in the empty space. I think you could tell by the things that I have, like the lamps and the mirrors, that this is not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about surrounding yourselves with the things that tell you something about you and about your purpose, essentially. This is, I think, why it is particularly important to keep everything in order as much as possible, because you will not think orderly if you don't have an order that is around you. So that's what I wanted to say for today. I hope you have a great day. Bye-bye. See you in my next video.